things were hard last week. Like, and now I have this little thing I can think to myself, which I think is a little bit toxic. Like, it's hard now, but you did this to yourself, basically. You bought this building. You have to do, blah, blah, blah. You decided you were going to keep going because business is so hard that I don't know. I think that I'm glad I didn't throw in the towel after the fire, but it didn't even occur to me. And the fact that I didn't pause and ask myself, what do I want?
Hey, it's Renee. Welcome to the Into the Wild Show, the podcast for women who want to build incredible mental strength to level up their business and lifestyle. I'm Renee Warren, the founder of We Wild Women, author, speaker, award-winning entrepreneur, and your host. Together, we will make you unapologetic about shining your light, growing your business, and turning you into a wildly confident and successful leader. This is for you, the visionary, the go-getter, the entrepreneur, and for those that need a real kick in the butt to get going and to dream bigger. Each week, I bring in leading experts and entrepreneurs to help you take leaps in the right direction, because I know the best advice comes from someone who has successfully done it before. So, are you ready to level up? Welcome to Into the Wild. Hey, you wild women! My next guest is a visionary artist and entrepreneur who combines creative problem solving and a down-to-earth approach to make the work that she does in her business, called the Portland Garment Factory, what it's known for. PGF, the Portland Garment Factory, is an award-winning full-service factory that bridges design and production to create experiential marketing installations, self-sculpture, high-end custom garments, and more. Britt brings an artist's perspective and deep knowledge of manufacturing to an industry better known for production than creative problem solving and sustainable practices. Under her guidance, PGF is a zero-waste, B Corp, and climate-neutral certified company. Britt lives by and promotes her personal motto, do whatever you want. Please welcome the incredible Britt Howard. So welcome, Britt Howard.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk.
We've been chasing each other for quite some time now. And I feel like had we recorded the episode probably like a year ago, it would have been a different story. Who knows?
So true. Yeah. What a difference a day, a month, a week makes.
Here, in our case, who knows how long it's been. So you run the Portland Garment Factory. So tell us a little bit about that, because it's a pretty unique business.
Yeah. So Portland Garment Factory, otherwise known as PGF, is a soft goods manufacturing company. So we make things that are cut and sewn. When we started, it was a lot of wearables. We do a lot of items that are fashion items or regular. We take someone's design and turn it into a just cut and sewn product. We also make things like large scale sculptures or curtains. We work with interior designers to create the soft elements of a space. We also do some upholstery projects. It really depends on the uniqueness of the project. We do like art installations and retail storefronts, and it's really just...
Yeah. And so what's your Instagram handle?
It's at Portland Garment Factory.
Okay. So go check it out, Portland Garment Factory, because you have some really cool images up of the stuff that you do. I love it. What inspired you to start the company?
Well, in a nutshell, I was looking for someone to help me with some pattern work, so that I had been making some items, but I wanted to make them in different sizes. And I needed a pattern maker that could grade patterns and make them in, and these were baby clothes at the time. And I couldn't find a person. And I thought, like, there has to be a workroom where you can go as a designer and order size runs and, or, help find your fabric and your trims and things like that. And we didn't have a strong garment district, so to speak, in Portland, but I've seen that in New York. I'd seen it in LA, and I knew it existed. It could exist. And so I thought, I'll just create like a business that's full service, and the idea of the business and what it started as are very different. And then we've really grown into what the original seed idea was in 2008. So I've been in business for 14 years. So
wow.
We're very different now than we were when we started. I was 25. I started the business with $2,000 in a tiny room, like the size of this room. And it just grew. It's taken a lot of sweat, tears, a lot of learning.
Same business for 14 years?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's like almost unheard of today, right? People are like selling or starting something new for 14 years.
Yeah, it's weird. I read that you are a Leo and my husband and my daughter are both Leos. And I love the loyalty of a Leo. And I'm not one, but I have that loyalty characteristic to things that I do. Like I really sometimes to a fault, like will stick with things. So so looking back on the 14 years, I am kind of like, oh, there's definitely times when you could have just been like, I'm good. I'm going to like put a pause on this or like be done with this. And I chose not to. And I sometimes ask myself, like, what is that about me that makes me so driven in just this business? But so I just have to keep going.
Have you heard of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron? Have you done the work?
I started reading it. My sister-in-law, who also used to work at PGF, she did it and she went all the way through the whole thing. And so I'm very inspired by that idea of that process. And maybe I can get back to you.
You should. Well, here's the thing. Maybe you shouldn't because I feel like you're living it. So what she says in the book is that if you believe in like God's spirit, however we're all connected, is that to be an artist, whatever that means, could be an artist in sculpting, an artist in whatever it is considered to be an artist in music. It's God's gift to you to do that work, to give it back to God. And so this is something, and there's like a book by the guy that founded Mind Valley, and I forget his name right now, but he says in this book that God gives everybody the same ideas and the same like projects they can possibly work on, but most people don't execute on it because doesn't come to them at the right time. And so everything you've created for 14 years in growing this business was because it was a gift that you're like, right time, right place. I'm the person to do it. And you did it.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that and lived that. That has been my experience, that especially in the early days, it felt like things were happening to me that were undeniably signs that it would be an accident. An accident would happen. And in my lap, I would have like I randomly met this woman at a garage sale who gave me a whole bunch of factory materials because she had owned a factory in the 90s and had went out of business. And it was like this long story, but I just got into that conversation with her. And then another lady I was randomly chatting with, she was like, oh, well, do you know this person? And then I ended up meeting one of my mentors through her, but it was kind of like this serendipitous.
Yes.
Went from a very easy conversation at a garage sale or like in a grocery store line that kind of changed my whole trajectory with the company. And it was always like, oh, this is happening to me. Like I can't even, and that's how it felt even like more recently. It's felt that way.
Yeah, it happens for you. That happened to me the other day when I was paying for parking, but I was using an app on my phone and there's this woman, she's wearing scrubs. She's a nurse at the hospital. I was like, how do you pay for parking if you don't have change? And I was like, use the app. And she goes, well, I don't have the app. And I'm like, let me see if I have 75 cents in my wallet. And where we live, 75 cents can actually get you 30 minutes. So it's pretty good. So I chopped up her parking and then we ended up walking to the lights together across the street. And I just asked but anyway, long story short, she's a nurse. She just moved here to the West Coast of Canada. And all of a sudden we have a babysitter. And I'm like, what are the chances? Because you know how hard it is to find a good babysitter.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I found somebody.
I think it also connects into the idea of being open with who you are and being open-minded to chat with people and like the things that can happen when you talk to, as corny as it is, it's the kindness that you put out in the world. It actually is palpable by other people and you can change somebody's day. I mean, I've had someone tell me like, thank you for looking me in the eyes once. Someone said that to me and it was a person who's houseless person who's on the streets and I just was in front of my building and we were having a conversation and he just casually said like, so PS, like, thanks for looking at me and talking to me in my face. And I was like, to me, I'm like, right. That meant a lot to him. So you never know. Yeah.
You never know. Yeah. Right. And then there's some people that come into your life, they should never be there. It's like, there's the door. Bye. Okay. So tell me, what is your favorite quote?
Okay, perfect. Because that's what I was just going to say is one of my favorite quotes that comes to mind when you asked me that previously was this. It's a quote, but it's also an idea. So one time my dog bit someone at the dog park and I was freaking out. Like I felt so bad, but it's a long story and it was an unfortunate event. I was freaking out and I went to pick my daughter up at her friend's house and I'm telling the mom this and she said, it sounds like you took care of it. Sounds like you did everything you needed to do in that situation and may they be well. And when she said, may they be well, she's like, you package that issue that just happened with you or that thought or that problem or that judgment or whatever it is that you're worried about. And you just put it on a little boat and you just push it into the ocean and may they be well. They're on their little boat. Because basically I was like, like freaking out about future tripping essentially. And it's like, well, our dogs were getting in a fight and he reached his hand in between them. And my dog went on his arm. Ultimately he was fine, but it was like, maybe the dogs could have just worked it out. But I was like, oh, what if he needs surgery? Or like, she's like, may he be well. He's at the doctor. He'll call you. It's out of your hands essentially. Mm-hmm. And I think that like when you just said, when some people come into your life and they need to go, that's when you go, may you be well.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to tell you that you're not invited in my life anymore and may you be well, but also peace.
Yeah. And who said it was that simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication? I would like to say that forgiveness is the ultimate form of sophistication. Because when you can forgive, it does so much for you as it does for the other person. And I feel like in that moment, you forgave yourself for that. And it wasn't even your fault. It happened.
I forgave my dog.
Your poor dog.
I also forgave him for screaming at me and scaring me really bad. I thought he was going to attack me.
The man?
Yeah, it was very scary, but it ultimately ended up fine and everything's fine. And dogs have their own language. So you have to kind of let them work it out sometime.
We don't have a dog. And my kids keep asking for one. And I said, you need to babysit a friend's dog for a week before you decide to get one. Because it's like having another child.
I have two and they're big. They're both like 60 pounds and they're a lot. It's a lot to have two dogs. It really is. I love it. It's like, I'm like dog life. Like, I don't know how I got into that, but I'm one of those people now.
Yeah. I would be too. For sure I would be. So we're not there yet. I just finished cleaning in detail our white duvet cover. So I'm still not there yet. Give me a couple months. Okay. So tell us now. I know part of the story, but what was the toughest moment that you had to face as an entrepreneur?
Well, there's been many micro tough things and there continues to be, but I would say like the biggest thing that ever happened in my business was when it was burned down on April 19th, 2021 in an arson fire. And just getting that call, and I live about 20 minutes away from the shop. And so, well, first of all, I had to wake up and start and call the fire department back and try to understand what they were saying. And just that whole, I feel like that moment in time was like the thing that stuck with me the most that like actually would choke me up is the part where I didn't understand. I think what I thought was happening is like, there's a little fire and they'll put it out. Like it didn't occur to, and he kept saying it's on the second floor, but we didn't have a second floor, but we had this like loft that was like in the middle of the factory. And I was like, okay, so the loft is on fire in the middle. Like I thought, okay, it must be electrical because I knew that we had some plugs up there. So I thought maybe that, like, I just didn't understand. And then I also was on completely on empty in my car. So this is 5 a.m. and I had to get gas. So I was afraid of running out of gas on the way there. So I stopped at a gas station. They weren't open. I stopped at another one and I was like afraid of running out. Anyway, and I finally got to a gas station and my phone rang again and it was one of my employees. And she just said, Britt, it's on the news. And I was like, still didn't understand. I was like, what's on the news? And she's like, it's breaking news. And it was terrible. And then I'm driving there and I see huge plumes of smoke. Oh, and I got about 3 blocks away and all the roads were blocked in the huge square. So I couldn't get in. So I had to leave my vehicle in a parking lot. And then I was running up and they were like going like this, like you can't come in. And then I was like, that's my building. And then they were like, oh my God. And it was just, I couldn't even look. It was bad. Like it was like the ceiling was crunching, falling in. It was just, I was like, oh, everything's gone. Like it's not what I thought. So, okay. Yeah. Like I just walked you through I just painted the picture. I'm sorry.
No, I think that I got goosebumps because, knowing that this was your heart and soul for so many years. This only happened, like 2 years ago? Not even?
Not even. It was a year in April. So like a year and a half.
Yeah. So like you're still recovering from this.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it feels like a long time has went by and it feels like a lot has changed, but it's also like, I feel like Monday of this week, I was thinking, okay, I think I know how to be normal now, like in the shop, as a business owner, in the day-to-day, because for so many months, we didn't have a new building for 8 months or 10 months or something like that. So the search, there was like all these chunks of like searching for the building, but trying to figure out the lawyers, detectives, the court situation because we found the person who did it right away. And so then I had to testify before a grand jury. I'd never done that before. Like the way it works is like you have your insurance, and then I didn't own the building. So the building owner had his insurance, and then there's the city, and everybody has each company hires their own detective and their own fire investigator and their own. And so I had all these people, all men, by the way, just telling me different things. And I had lots of scammers also, like people who would call and you'd think they were an important person in the story. And then you find out like, oh my gosh, they're trying to like
get money from you,
and get my insurance money. And I did. And so it was a lot to navigate. So I've been in these like different scenarios over the past year or plus. And we finally wrapped up all the insurance. It happened. I think we signed papers to like, be like, we're done. We're not asking. But like we're done with our claim. I think that was like a couple of months ago.
Wow.
It definitely took more than a year, but it's just like, and also, kind of guiding all of my employees and all the people that work for me through this, and constantly having to check in with them and make sure that they still trust me. Like, you have a position, you have a job, you have a space here. Like, we're going to get a new home. Okay. Yeah. The date changed. Like, it's just trying to keep people in. It's like I'm the captain of a ship, and the ship is like, has all these leaks. And I'm like, no, you guys, I promise we're not going to drown. Like, I promise. And that's a lot to put on them too. So it's just a lot to navigate. And the other day just started to feel like, okay, I think I understand my rhythm. Like even this new space, it's so different than my last space. So
is it a rebuild in the same location, or you
actually bought a different building, and I was able to move to be my own owner of my own building, which is really, it's nice. A huge silver lining. And so I think that it's also like, I mean, you were talking about forgiveness, which we can talk about. It's been a journey to like be able to be risky when you're at your most traumatized point in your business career, and then be like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do like a really risky thing, like buy a building when I don't know real estate. Like I don't know any of this. And so I felt like I had to almost trust myself and forgive the person and almost move on, because I kind of had to like refocus, because it was a totally different animal to go from like fire investigator to building. How do I buy a building?
And you must have learned so much. So if you can go back to Britt from like a year ago, right? So a few months after this all happened, what is the lesson that you would teach her today?
Probably something around trusting in the process and being patient, with just patience. And that kind of like what I was saying about future tripping, and like just kind of not worrying about this could happen, that could happen, and that it's all going to happen. Like whatever is going to happen is going to happen. So you just have to be along the ride, make good choices, be patient, be kind to yourself, like take care of yourself. I mean, all last summer, I hate to say this, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't go to the river. But I didn't have a job. I had no clients. I had nowhere to be. I had nowhere to be in the morning. And I didn't go, I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to go camping. I just freaked out all summer trying to figure out where. I driving around, going online, trying to find a new home for us. And it was like, I felt like I needed to take care of my people, which I did. But looking back, I think it's like, just slow down a little bit, trust the process, and go sit by the river while your daughter's at camp and what are you doing?
You have a moment.
Yeah.
Right? So how many people did you have working for you at that time?
I think about 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
So these were 15 people's income.
Yeah.
That went up in smoke.
But I had payroll protection. I had a certain type of insurance just for something like this. So I was able to, their paychecks were protected under this insurance policy I had, which was a different insurance policy. So that's another thing, is insure yourself and make sure you understand how well you are insured. And I got that piece of advice actually when I was speaking at like a thing at a high school that was like a career fair. And I was in the bathroom. Talk about talking to people you don't know.
Right.
I'm in the restroom, and this other woman I was like, oh, I love your shoes or something. And she was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And we're talking. And then we're like both speakers at this career fest. And she was like a financial planner. And I was like, oh, I just bought my first house. I want to talk to you about financial planning. And this is years ago. And she's like, cool, come for coffee. So I go to her business, and the first thing she says is, what is your insurance like? And I was like, I don't know. And she basically said, I'm not going to talk to you about anything financial until I understand that you're insured. And here's how you need to be insured. She told me a couple horror stories. So I got insured, and now that's like my favorite thing. I want to buy like all the insurance.
Hey ladies, I don't know if you heard, but I just launched the Morning Practice Planner. This is one of our coolest projects to date. I know you're probably thinking, not another planner, but this one is different. It was created out of my own need to become more productive while keeping an eye on my health and relationships. When I was creating the framework for this, I asked myself and the women I was coaching, why add more to the morning chaos? How can this tool actually make me more productive? What do I need to organize and learn about my own routine to set myself up for success? And so I created this planner, mostly for myself at the beginning, but I quickly learned that women like you wanted it. In the Morning Practice Planner, you get to organize your year, quarter, month, and days to become the most productive version of yourself possible and to hold yourself accountable. But how? It's the process and the accountability to yourself that pushes you to start and commit. The planner starts with some key exercises that I call the theory, and then you get to do the daily pages. Here is where the magic happens and where your days start to become even more successful. So enough about that. I want you to hit pause on the show right now. Go ahead and head on over to morningpracticeplanner.com. Grab your copy today. That is morningpracticeplanner.com to grab your copy today. So it's funny, we just talked about this for my car too, because there's like where we live in British Columbia is like they have a provincially owned insurance company for all automotive insurance. And their tiers of insurance are really interesting. You can get like a leisure insurance, and that maybe this is reflective in the States as well, where you're allowed to drive a leisure vehicle for up to 6 days a month. I'm like, no, but that's what we had last year, which was weird. And I was like, because I was at the place and the guy recommended this to me and he works at the insurance place. And I was like, well, what's the cost of the next one up? I feel like this doesn't make sense because if we were to drive more than 6 days, and they know this by how many kilometers you had on your car, would we be insured? I go, I'm not going to try to save $40 a month and skirt the rules here. But yes, insurance is huge. Even if you're renting a spot, like I remember when I had my agency, we rented this cute little office space in another building with other offices, and we were getting insurance. They asked what part of the corridor and stairwell do we want to insure? And I go, well, that's not our rentable space. And they made a claim for that if it's a space that your employees are using to get to and from work. And if they fall and break a leg, you could be liable. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh no, let's cover that, please. I don't want to have to deal with that if it does happen. And if it did, I want to make sure that they're okay.
I totally agree. And I think there was a lot of time in my business career, like especially when I was in major startup mode, when I was 25, I didn't have the money to get the best insurance and I didn't understand why it mattered. And I was laser focused on like growing the business. And so I wasn't going to spend money I didn't think I needed to. And so it's easy to give the advice, like buy all the insurance. Right. It's a privilege to be able to in the space I'm in now. But like as a starting out entrepreneur, just have something. Like it's important.
I think it goes into the budgeting, right? Like if you're actually going to get a building, if you're like, for us, we were a service-based business. We didn't have to have an office, but we knew that our team would be way more productive if we all worked from the same location. And we just included it in our budget. We're like, okay, this is how much the insurance is and we can finally afford this place. We'll move in next month. But yeah, the insurance is important. And thankfully for you, it worked out for you and the people on your team. But let's talk about resilience and all this too. Because I mean, you went through so much. It wasn't just like someone sued you for like wrongful dismissal. It's like you essentially lost it all. What are some of the things that you did, even though it may have been slow or maybe not unseen to you, things that you did to help you get through these moments when the building burnt down, when you didn't have that income, when you had to take care of your team? What are things you did to help yourself?
I think we did spend a lot of time together as a team in a unique way that we hadn't been spending. We'd never been to Jenny's house, for instance, but we all went out there and she lives on a flower farm in gorgeous countryside. So we went out there and spent time together, and that helped us build the closeness that I think we needed, even if it's like work closeness, it's not family, but it's work family kind of situation. And everyone was feeling the different stages of the grief at different times. I think managing other people's emotions around the grief and the loss of PGF was hard for me only because there was so much to do that it took, and everything was taking away from me reflecting or going inward for me, like what's going on. When we were talking earlier about times when you could exit your business, it's like, it didn't even occur to me. until things were really hard. I mean, things were hard last week. Like, and now I have this little thing I can think to myself, which I think is a little bit toxic. Like, it's hard now, but you did this to yourself, basically. You bought this building. You have to do, blah, blah, blah. You decided you were going to keep going because business is so hard that I don't know. I think that I'm glad I didn't throw in the towel after the fire, but it didn't even occur to me. And the fact that I didn't pause and ask myself, what do I want? Do I want to keep going? Or is this a great opportunity for me to maybe fold the company and move on in my life? Like, I'm turning 40 this year. I could be doing something different. It didn't occur to me. And there's a reason for that. And here I am. I'm stoked to be here and be doing it. I'm just saying, talking about resiliency, it's I think I've just had a lot of bad things happen in my life. So I know how to just be well, it could be worse, because it always can be. It could always be worse. And I feel like I'm here, and the community, it was so hard to not be resilient when the whole community in Portland proper and from afar were so loving and giving and emotionally available and just showing up in really crazy ways that I couldn't even accept. I was just I don't want this attention. I like being the helper. I do not want to be
interesting.
I did not like that role. And my husband kept having to tell me there's nothing you can do. They're doing this, or we're doing this, or whatever it was. But I mean, people were doing everything. I mean, they started a huge GoFundMe. That was crazy. But also stuff calling me and saying hey, I have 4 tickets waiting for you, and we'll call for this outdoor show. Cause it was COVID. So there were still shows were happening, but outside, or movie in the park where you have to sit in this little 6 feet apart bubble thing. But sending us tickets for that, saying we heard about what happened at your business and we just want to give you a little relief. So we set aside some space for you. And people I didn't even know were just emailing me with that. It was amazing.
It's those people that we don't know. It's those silent watchers that admire you from a distance. Most people don't actually say anything, but then they'll come to you years later saying, hey, you said this thing or you did this thing and it changed my life. And so in these moments, it's the community is stepping up saying, we're honoring you and your business and your team. It's a gift. And how beautiful is that?
Yeah, I felt very, very appreciated. And it was really monumental for me to feel that. And it was life-changing, honestly. Being able to accept that, it just gave me more power to put out, I feel into the world, and invest more into everything I was already caring about, but just even doubling down. Things are not great in Portland in general. And so it's been being a Portlander and being a person who cares so much. And I mean, it's in the name of my business. I love Portland so much that it's been really eye-opening to see how people are taking care of me. And then there's so much to take care of in the city that I'm my capacity grew, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, and you've been through it before. It's kind of like a broken bone grows stronger, right?
Yeah.
So for me, a couple things happened in business. One was my co-founder of my agency that was doing really well. It just one day got up and left. And she was also one of my best friends. And that broke my heart. But then I was oh, I have the business to run. And I have my team looking at me, my clients looking at me, the community looking at me. And inside, I'm I can't do this alone. I don't know how to do this. And there were some people that would say comments wow, I'm surprised you're still in business. I thought for sure it would fold after she left. I for sure thought you'd give up. And I'm that hurt, right? And that was 2 people. But on the other end, there was 100 people saying, Renee, I'm here to support you. Can I introduce you to people that are potential clients? Can I invest in the business to get you going to the next level? All these people showed up. I was wow, thank you. But I'm actually going to figure this out by myself. And in those moments, I didn't realize it. It was a big lesson now. I look at it today. I'm if that were to happen to me today, guess what? I know what to do. I know how I'm going to feel. And I know how I'm going to get through the situation because it's a lesson. I learned this lesson before. It sucked. I'm going to cry for a day and that's all I'm going to allow myself to do this time. Then we'll keep moving on. So in these moments where you had to go through working with detectives and whatever, private investigators and going to court and doing all these things that kind of seem like a waste of time. Were there ever bouts of it where you felt like an imposter? Who are you to do this?
I think that happened more when I was dealing with the bank in trying to navigate how to pull off this building buy.
Oh, the new building.
Yeah, because that was the most time that I felt is this for real? And I look back and I'm like, I'm a badass. Like, of course it made sense. Like, that's so silly that I thought that. But because I recently found like I had made like essentially like a pitch deck to the bank because they asked me all these questions, but I'm such a visual person that I was like, I need to visually represent what you're asking. They'd ask me like, and the insurance did too, actually, like what was in progress at the time of the fire, and what was like what jobs were in progress, and like what was on the books, what deposits did you have for future jobs, like it's all this financial planning. And then the bank kind of essentially asked for similar things like, what do you think your revenue will be once you get all of your equipment back up and running? And it's like, I don't know.
Right.
Quit asking me. It's also COVID, you guys. Like, oh my God. But I had to just massage that information that I did have and package it in a way that they would give me clout and like give me credit for like what I was saying. And so I think that that's where I felt a little bit impostery was in explaining what I thought the future of my new business it was going to be like. But you know what? We're literally doing it. Everything I set out to do is happening because we work really hard here. And I also made a plan, and things are a little different than what we thought, but it's the plan is working and the things that I said are working. And I came across that deck the other day and I saw it and I was like, good job. In my head, I was thinking like, that was awesome. Like they probably had never seen anything like that because it was all visually laid out and like they could scroll through this instead of just all black and white typed in an email. It was like there were colors and a photo of the building with like this words. And I just give them the time to get them on my page. I'm not going to conform to I'm like a creative person and this is the language I speak and they want me to speak their language. And I'm like, I don't speak that language, but if you want to do business with me, I mean, to me, it's like a two-way street. And banks often, I mean, luckily I work with an amazing bank, but like a lot of banks don't. They're just like, this is our language. This is our gatekeepy kind of like way we do things. And you can get in if you know how to speak it. But I'm like, I don't know how to speak. And I'm actually not going to learn because I'm really laser focused on this thing that I'm already doing.
Good for you. See, this is why we need more women in positions of power, because the way that we used to do business needs to change. You can go into the bank with a vision board and be like, this is what I'm going to create. So this is where I want to bank. Now give me a mortgage, please. Right. It's pretty.
For whoever tries it. It worked for me, but it was also a lot of really serious like hurdles that I had to get over language. Like there's no question you have to learn the language. So, and I figured it out because I have a lot of awesome people I can tap in. Mm-hmm. I had to tap the network. Everybody wanted to help because after the fire, what can I do? I'm like, well, we can talk about real estate. I've never bought real estate. How do we do that? Like, and I'm lucky in that way that I have a network.
Yeah. And you asked too. You asked people for help and asked the questions.
Yeah. I always tell myself like, I love helping and I mean it. If someone has a baby and I say, I would like to bring you dinner and they're like, no, or something. It's like, no, I mean it. I want to bring dinner or whatever. I mean, I think it's hard when you're going through a tragedy and someone says, what can I do for you? It's always better to say, I'm going to do X. Does that work for you? Because like I just lost a friend and asking my friend's family, like, what can I do for you in this time of grief? It's like, that's not where their head is. So I need to say, I'm planning to do all the soccer pickups this week for your kid. Does that work for you? Or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Actually, I've said this before and I'm a hypocrite admittedly to saying this, but saying, how can I help is the laziest question. And sometimes people, and they might not get it right, but they're going to show up and they're going to do it anyway. They're like, because asking somebody how you can help is actually putting the onus on them.
That's a thing we have to learn. And like maybe people are very well intentioned when they ask.
Totally, they are.
Once you go through a tragedy, and then for me, I can like give that firsthand advice that it's way easier when someone says, "I'm doing this for you." Yeah. Does that work? Rather than like, what can I do? Because I'm just like, I don't know. Can you just be me? Can we switch bodies? Like,
I've switched bodies just for a month. I just need to get over this. It's like, I will weed your garden for you and I will shovel your whatever driveway. It's true. People are well-intentioned, but it's also people get scared. They don't want to like encroach. They don't want to say, how are you doing? What can I do for you? With the fear of like bringing up emotions that they're trying to get over. But yeah, most people are well-intentioned. Okay. So anything else you wanted to add to the idea of resiliency?
Resiliency to me is just putting myself in other people's shoes and then kind of reminding myself that with time and with grace and all of these things will change and you can literally get through anything and it could be worse. Like it just went on those days where things feel like, how can I even go on? Like, this is so hard. And I have no answers, and I have all the questions, and all the people have the questions for me. And I just feel like I can't even do this. And I feel so erratic. I just have to remind myself that I think of other people who have been through way worse, and it just like grounds me. And I'm like, I can do this. Humans are extremely resilient. I've got it. I just need time and grace. And you have to ask for grace too, to be a resilient person. You have to be like, look, here's the trip I'm on today, to like people at work or to like my family or whatever. I'm tripping out. Like, I need you all to know that. Be graceful with me, or give me grace to like be a little bit off today.
Yeah, I think I say that daily to my husband.
Me too.
Today I need grace, a lot of it. Okay, so one last question for you. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that for you?
For me, it's very much saying what the hard things that need to be said in the moment. I don't often walk away from a situation being like, well, I wish I would have said this. Like, I usually am the one that said it. And I think for me, I give that to, I'm like, I give that to the world. That is my gift. No, I think that a lot of people and a lot of women are like, dang, I should have just stood up for myself, or I should have just said this. And sometimes I do it even on behalf of other people, even though I don't even know if it's what they wanted me to say, because we're sitting around at a table. But I think that being bold and open-minded with my words, like with my thoughts, and turning them into words, and speaking the truth of how I feel or how something feels in a meeting or in any situation, being real, it really, for me, I think that it creates, like a realness so people feel like it's relatable, and then they can really get down to business with you. So in business, I like to be super real and just say what I'm thinking. And I do feel like a wild woman, because a lot of other women say, I can't believe you said that. Yeah. And I think I'm wild, but I'm not. It's not like I'm being rude. I'm just saying, hey, this is something I'd like to call attention to. And some people are like, you're not afraid to talk about the hard things. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
Get it over with, right? Yeah. Eat the frog first.
Yes, that's how I am. If there's a problem, I'm going to go to the problem and try to be a creative solver, but in a graceful way. Like, I'm not like going to be the crazy person at the table that says like something off the wall and rude, but I will say maybe what other people are thinking.
Right. So then they can rely on you for that.
Yeah.
Great. So if people want to go online to find you, to figure out what projects you're working on today, where can they find you?
A great place is Instagram at Portland Garment Factory. And then our website is portlandgarmentfactory.com. And we have a newsletter people can sign up for, so they can see what we're up to and get, the newsletter has things like posting about this podcast. And we have a gift shop where we do sales. And then we also talk about our projects and art installations and different fun things like that.
So cool. So sign up. Well, Britt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was awesome. Great conversation.
So there you have it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Into the Wild. To make this girl happy and to help reach other women who are dreaming of starting their business, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and everywhere you listen in. Also, if you want to find me in the wild, check me out on Instagram at Renee_Warren. That's RENEE_WARREN. And leaving you with one of my favorite tips of all time: the best advice you could ever receive is from someone who has successfully done it before you. Until next time, ladies, peace out.